Oh, there we go.
Fail. See what happens when they don't let me drive.
I have to advertise. Look. Yeah, we have a guest today. Edson, he'll be on soon.
Yes.
Right. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Getting ahead of ourselves here.
Why? I'm getting a problem.
That might be Lauren behind me. That might be what you're hearing.
No, it's my side. It's all right. Anyway.
You're kidding. Oh, my God.
Right. We'll work it out. Right.
Anyway, sorry. We just had a huge package delivered.
Anyway. Right. I'm probably going to have to disappear at some point during the stream to get a package, I'm sure. Anyway.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to go an hour in. So that said, let's get moving.
Let's get moving.
Hi. Lots of good stuff going on this week. We're going to talk about it soon. Next.
Yeah, let's get going. There you go. Go for it.
All right. We're going to do the abbreviated version for speed. Be a decent human being. Don't be stupid. Don't advertise that you need a job. Don't keep reposting your question over and over. If you harass people, we'll burn you to the ground. We've only had to do it twice in 6 years, but yes, we do share ban lists. And ask me, Yo-Yo, over in Discord. Moving on. Oh yeah, have fun. Have fun.
And yeah, definitely have a good time. That's the big part of this, right?
Yes.
Let's do some brief introductions here. Let's do this. Where are we? Yeah, my name's Simon Lightfoot, Flutter community leader, CTO of Dev Angels London, and you can follow me on Twitter at Dev Angels London. Scott
Stahl, community leader, organizer GDG Cleveland, writing code under the name Big Dog Apps. And yes, Frey, my camera always looks a little bit blurry. It's a driver issue. Working on it. Randall, where's Randall?
Where's Randall? Hang on, there he is. Hey, Randall.
I'm Randall Schwartz, as always. I've been a Dart and Flutter Google developer expert for 5.5 years since the beginning of the program. And I answer lots and lots of questions all over the interwebs. And I'm here in the function of being a question magician, which means that I am watching the chat to see if you have questions, especially for our guest today. And the way you indicate that it's questions, you put Q: in front of it, and then I know it's for us and not just random chat amongst yourselves.
And Danielle, if you're not hiding behind the banner, please introduce yourself. It's all right. No, let's do that.
Yeah, I want my darts to show, or my dashes to show, and my Sparky to show. So that means I have to be a little lower on my screen to do that. So I have to turn on the machines today. Oh well. So now you all know they really are real because they're not turned on at the moment. Anyway, hi everybody. I'm Danielle Cox. I'm the Flutter lead at a company called Ardley, and I'm also very proud to be one of the co-organizers of the Flutteristas. And so that's a group for Flutter enthusiasts who happen to be female or non-binary. And if you're interested, hit me up. I would love to get you on board. Unfortunately, we're still a little bit manual with getting people on just because there's a backlog. And so if you contact me, that's my Twitter handle there. Contact me and I will, fill out the form, contact me with your email address. I'll get you on. And that's me.
Is it me or is your connection really bad, Danielle? Is that me or is Scott and Randall, are you experiencing a bad connection.
I'm
with
not
Daniel.
seeing anything bad this time.
All right. Well, hopefully it's okay on it.
And I want to
Right.
back up and qualify something real quick. Miyoyo is the admin who was helpful. Miyoyo was not a problem. Moving on.
Yes, there you go. And we have our guest, Edson. Welcome to the stream.
Thank you. Yeah.
Do you want to introduce yourself? Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Hi, folks. Thank you for watching us. Thank you, Simon, Scott, Daniel, Randall. First, I'd like to say that I'm jealous because it seems that all of you have like dashes and other like stuffed toys, and I don't have any. So maybe I'll have to.
Yeah, but you
figure
have
out how
access to the
get one.
cafeteria.
Yeah, I need to get one for me. And as you can see on the screen, my name is Edson Yanaga. I'm at Yanaga in most social media, and I'm a developer relations engineer for Google Wallet. And I'm not a Flutter specialist. I'm just a Google Wallet specialist. So maybe I'm the weird person here.
That's right. So you've been invited on the show because of the Global Gamers Challenge that we've been doing recently as part of one of the Flutter initiatives, and I hear that there's some extra points to be had if people integrate the Wallet API or the Wallet SDK in general. Yeah, like, do you want to talk a little bit about that? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I've not even used it myself, so I'm clueless here.
Yeah, I hope that everybody's excited about the challenge and about Google Wallet. Like, you have a lot of great prizes if you're just creating your Flutter game for the challenge. But of course, we from the Google Wallet team, we're awarding an additional $30K US for some prizes if you integrate your Flutter app, your Flutter game, with the Google Wallet API. And a lot of people I've seen, I think I saw a question here in the chat about Google Pay and Google Wallets. So let me try to explain that. Google Wallets is your digital wallet that you can have in your Android phone. So in Google Wallets, you can store credit cards, boarding passes, loyalty cards, offers, gift cards. You can add like collectibles, like if you want to create your Dash collectible and add that to Google Wallet. Oops, we did that at Google I/O last year. So you can have some very nice collectibles. Actually, I'm trying to open my phone here. Let's see. Oh, actually, I have a Dash, but in my Google Wallet. It's not a stuffed toy. Yeah. So I have a Dash and other like I have the Dino, Sparky. So everything here in my Google Wallet. And how does it relate to Google Pay? Well, whenever you open your Google Wallet and choose a credit card, let me get here one credit card, for example, and you choose your Google Wallet and you choose a credit card and you go to your to a store where you have a terminal that say accepts Google Pay. The moment you tap your phone in that device, that from that moment forward, you're using Google Pay. Okay, so Pay is how you pay for stuff, and Google Wallet is how you store your everything essentials like credit cards and other stuff. So that's the main difference between two. So, but since we're talking about the challenge and the Flutter app, you're not interested in credit cards in Google Wallet. You want to add other stuff. And part of the challenge is how you, as a developer, can create innovative ways to add digital assets to your Google Wallets that you can use in your game. So one of the examples that I mentioned in the challenge was, maybe you can create collectibles, or maybe you can create like things in the real world where people can scan a QR code, add a pass to Google Wallet, and then maybe it will give you additional bonus points or superpowers inside your Flutter game. So these are some different things that you can do with Google Wallet, and we're super excited to see what you're going to create with your apps and Google Wallet. So because I want to play those games, I want to see what we can do with that. Yes, Scott?
No, does the Google Wallet have bonus levels where it gets you like, a percentage off your coffee or, anything? Could we put in a PR for that?
Yeah, we could do that. Well, interestingly, there are some coffee shops around the world that they're using Google Wallet for loyalty cards, for example, and you can just go to your store, you just tap your loyalty cards, and you get for every 5 coffees or 10 coffees that you consume, we can have like a free donut or even more coffee. So you can
that's
use
10% off. There you go.
You can use
Even
Google
more
Wallet.
coffee.
They just need to put that in the menu so it's easier to find.
Yeah, why not? QR codes for everything. You can use Google Wallet with that as well. And I know that some people, I know that throughout the last weeks, some people were having questions about some doubts about how to integrate Google Wallet, how to do that, how easy it is. So while people were thinking about, well, questions about Google Wallet, I don't know if could use some time to show very quickly how they can just onboard with the Google Wallet API, and then we can follow up with any question that people might have.
Sure. I mean, if you've got if you want to like sort of, I was actually just taking a look at the website here, and I'm thinking, oh, there's actually like an Android SDK. There's also a REST API, which is which would be really easy for Flutter to integrate with. Is there actually a Flutter? Do you know if there's a Flutter library for Google Wallet?
There it is. Actually, if you go here to github.com/google-wallet/flutter-plugin, I'm trying to find the right place here.
I've got it here.
Yeah, Simon, if you've got that one also, Edson, we have a quick question for you that's pretty straightforward. Is the Google Wallet available worldwide?
Well, Google Wallet is available in a lot of countries. We intend to be worldwide available. I know I had some questions, especially people from India. Like Google Wallet as a consumer app is not yet available on India. You can expect some news soon. We're adding countries basically every month to Google India to Google Wallet, and you can expect some big news about Google Wallet in India soon. I can't say anything more than that, but and some people were asking, if I'm in India and I want to participate in the challenge and integrate with Google Wallet, but it's not available yet. So saying that if you can try to connect to the API from another geography or another country, it is possible then for you to access the Google Wallet API. But the Google Wallet app is not yet available in India from the Play Store. So, but if you want to try, as I said, from another country or geography, and the Google Wallet integration can be tested on the browser too. Like you, of course, the experience is much better on your Android phone, but it's available on the browser as well.
You know, I was going to say, this will be about the time where we're telling people that, none of us work for Google except for Edson does. So.
Yes. Yeah, he's making a liar out of us now. We normally say nobody on the screen works for Google. Okay. Only the guy at the bottom of the pile here. He's the one who can get to the cafeteria. The rest of us just have to starve.
So this is the package, Google Answer Wallet, that you can add to your Flutter project. And it looks to me like you've got a pretty straightforward API. So add the package, and is wallet available on this device? Save passes. Yeah. We could definitely have a browse around the API for sure.
Edson, we're being asked if there's a link that would show the availability for where Google Wallet's available and where it's not.
Yes, there is. Actually, let me Google that very quickly.
So it looks like this allows you to save passes to Google Wallet, and there's a Google Wallet button. I don't know if there's much else in here in this SDK at the moment. Sorry, in the plugin at the moment, right? But the source code is available, so please feel free.
Yeah, well, the plugin helps you if you have the encoded Google Wallet pass. The flooding makes it easy for you to show the Add to Google Wallet button in your app, because that's the way how you show your user that you can add something to your Google Wallet. And it's also localized. So you have the Add to Google Wallet button available in different colors, different formats, different languages. So the plugin takes care of that. But creating the pass by itself, you would need to use most likely the REST API for you to do that. Okay.
I mean, that's what I was just looking at here. So I posted this link in the chat here. The REST samples, and this actually goes through. Obviously, it's not in Dart, but changing these to Dart is not normally a big issue here. But yeah, authenticating using Google Cloud Service accounts, creating, updating, patching passes, adding messages to a pass, creating, updating, patching a pass, adding messages to a pass, expiring a pass, creating a signed JWT for the add to wallet URL, performing batch updates. Yeah, I mean, so there's a myriad of languages here, so you could always just pick one that you're more familiar with and see if you can. I mean, but the documentation of the REST API is available. It was linked to it earlier on. Where was I going? I've gone too far now. No, I've lost it. I'm sure I did get out in a minute. Oh, here it is. Yeah, Wallet API onboarding guide. So I'll put this in the chat as well so people can follow this. This particularly is Google Wallet REST API. Yeah. So that's a possibility as well. Is there some key things that you wanted to cover? Sorry, Edson, I'm just darting around there.
Oh, yes. If you go to the site that you just shared, the basic step is that you need to sign up for the Google Pay and Wallet console. So you can have what we call the issuer ID. That's your number that you're going to use to create your passes to add to Google Wallet. Then, well, that's the weird one for a lot of people. Then you need to go to the Google Cloud console, right? And enable the Google Wallet API. And a lot of people ask me, why do I have to go to the Google Cloud console? Well, we needed a way to authenticate you, that you are who you say you are, to use the Google Wallet API. We could have created another authentication framework to do that. But guess what? Google Cloud already has this stuff. So we didn't have to create it again. So you just go to Google Cloud. You just type wallets. You're going to enable the Google Wallet API, which is free. You don't have to pay anything to use the Google Wallet API. And you create a service account and service account credentials. When you download the credentials, that's what you're going to use to say that to the Google Wallet API that you are who you really are. Then from a technical perspective, you should be good to go. Because if you go through the samples, it's going to ask just for your issuer ID, which you can copy paste from the console, and for your credentials, which you downloaded from the Google Cloud console. And with these two information, you already can create your first pass.
So it sounds to me like so a lot of the people watching probably have apps that already have Firebase projects. Firebase projects are just Google Cloud projects with a bit of makeup on. So if they go to Google Cloud Console, they can choose their Firebase project, go to I think it's credentials APIs, and enable the wallet API, and that enables it for their project. I do wonder, like, so obviously accessing it with the service account. I'd say if you want to make sure that this is to the audience. Sorry, you want to make sure you're careful when you're creating the service account that only has access to the wallet API, or alternatively, you could not share the service account credentials with the app itself. Instead, you do that server side. So what you could probably better way of dealing with this is to have cloud functions or something else which calls the RESTful API to perform actions on behalf of your user. So I can imagine a scenario, for example, let's say you've got your game and the person does something in the game and it wins an achievement. You want that achievement to pop up in their wallet or some such thing to offer it to their wallet. Then what you would be doing is the app would write that to Firestore, and then you would have a cloud function that listens to the Firestore achievements collection, and then it makes the RESTful API calls to update the pass object for that user or something on their account, basically, with Google Wallet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very important information. Don't share your service account credentials with the public. So if you're creating something on GitHub, don't commit your credentials in the repo. Please use like a secret management tool or something like that to keep your credentials safe. And well, it might be a more complex scenario, but a customer from a big corporation was integrating Google Wallet and asked me, well, can I use my own like OAuth authentication system to integrate with Google Wallet API? And I said, it's very likely possible because Google Cloud supports that. But another thing is that whenever you create a Google Wallet pass that you're going to share with your users, that pass needs to be signed. For you to be able to sign the pass, you need a private key. So you can authenticate with OAuth very likely, but you still need a key to be able to sign your passes. So you still need your service account credentials, and you need to keep them secure.
I need one quick point of order. We have a lot of folks here who are not regulars. What we do is if you have a question for the people on the screen, put a Q in front of it, the way you're seeing now, because there's a lot of crosstalk going on in the chat and people are answering each other's questions and having discussions. So if we see if we see a question in chat that does not have a Q, we're just assuming that it's for each other and we keep rolling. We only put it in our list if there's a Q. And I know I glossed through the do's and don'ts. Every single time we see your question, it goes to the bottom of the list. Even if you were next, you'll get bumped to the bottom of the list. This is the way we fight against people spamming us the same question every 60 seconds in order to be annoying. So that said, the queue marks it as a question for us. And every time you post it, it goes to the bottom. But if it's got a queue, believe me, you made it into the list. We have a little system that we start with. All right.
Speaking of which, we definitely have a lot of wallet queues.
Yeah, we have 21 questions, and we typically average 5 minutes a question.
We might
give you an idea how long. And we're supposed to have 35 minutes left in the stream. The math is not mathing.
We'll probably be going for 2 hours in total. That's not you, Edson. That's just us. Sorry. But
okay, so
is there any questions regarding wallet on the document?
I'm looking through the list, and I'm going to. If your question was earlier than the ones we asked, but it wasn't about wallet, that's why. Because of course,
we'll still get to them.
Go back to work.
But after this,
yeah.
Okay.
So whilst you're having a look through there, I was just going to bring up I was just taking a look through the website here. So I posted this link to this in the chat channel. But yeah, so you've got setting up your issuer account. Once you've sort of proceeded through the steps, you've got getting your authentication credentials, work on getting your service account so you can use the REST API on the back end. So with your cloud functions or something that's not inside your app. There's obviously the Android SDK, which you can use within your app. And then you need your signing certificate. Again, this talks you through how you find that and how you set it all up. But there's also building your first pass here. And there's also code labs on that as well, which is really helpful. Mm-hmm. So this is directed towards Android. However, the knowledge should be shareable, right? Like it's not too different.
Yeah, I guess most of the knowledge you can reuse across Flutter and Android. And I would say that the wallet API is super simple. Maybe the most complicated parts are the onboarding, creating the account, setting up the credentials, because everything else is just a matter of creating your pass. And we even have our visual pass builder on the dev sites here. Mm-hmm. And you just copy and paste those JSONs, you like customize them, you send through the REST API, and you get your pass back. So there's very few steps for you to. So here you have the visual builder. You can customize just to preview what your pass is going to be in production. So once you do that, if you go to the top, there is a tab, and if you switch tabs, you can literally get the pass as in JSON format and you just copy paste those JSON files to your codes, and you're almost there.
CJWT. So that's okay. So that's actually visualizing it as a JWT token. So this is what would be. This contains the actual loyalty card information that's being presented on the screen.
Yes.
I'm with you. So I didn't realize that. So basically, each of the wallet entries is just a JWT token that's been encoded. Yeah. That's been that's been signed. Yeah.
Yes.
That's cool.
And I think I saw a question here. Well, is it like only server side? But with wallets, you can do the integration in many different ways. You can do everything server side. You can do everything client side as long as you can sign the jobs. You can do it in Android. So if you go through the docs, you find that there are different ways. Like I'm a Java person, sorry guys. So I'm used to doing everything server side. But you can do that on the client side as well, as long as you're able to sign the jobs.
Well, speaking of recommendations on ways to do things, we have a native wallet integration for an add to app, which what that means is people are taking Flutter code and they are inserting it into existing apps. So you can do that section by section. So they have a wallet integration already in an app for add to app with custom method channels communicating between the Flutter code and the operating system. What's the recommended migration path if you're just doing a pure Flutter app?
So, well, I was going to say So what is the recommended path for migrating your wallet integration to a pure Flutter app? Is that what you're saying? I think that's what they're saying. If I reread that, from my perspective, you'd still be using method channels, right? So if you're using there's two things here, right? If you're using the Android SDK from Google, from the Google Wallet team, then you're going to be using method channels to communicate with that Android SDK through from Flutter. So even though you're using Add to App now, if it was a full Flutter app and you're using the Wallet Android SDK, you'd still be using that. In fact, probably the whole plugin that we just looked at, and in fact, you can go look at the plugin, so it probably uses that to do its thing. Conversely, though, that as we just said, since it's just about signing those JWTs and calling the API, that can all be done on the back end. In which case, you don't even need to have any special integration inside your Flutter app. That's all pushed to the back end, and then inside your Flutter app, you're just calling your own APIs to do that, right? So there should be no need. Again, it's really about what is your current native wallet integration, like how are you doing that, and how do you want to migrate that? Sorry, I just jumped in now on that one, but
no, I'm glad you did.
Danielle, no fair sending me notifications to check if my volume's on.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, if you've got anything to add to that, I don't know. Anyone? No. All right. And that's one down.
Yeah.
Should we do we find another one?
I'm right here. I'm fine. Has anyone tried? Oops, wrong one. Somebody made it jump on me. Okay, there we go. What are some use cases for Google Wallet?
Well, as I said, the Google Wallet API that you can publicly access. With that, you're able to add digital assets to your Google Wallet. And you can use like loyalty cards, event tickets, boarding passes, and I think it's more specific to the Global Gamers Challenge. You also have the generic pass. And there is no limit to your imagination on what you can add to the generic pass, because almost everything is customizable. So if you want to create a digital asset that you can share to your users in Google Wallet, that's the one you should be using.
So there's a way of inserting. There's an API for inserting, getting, listing, patching, updating the generic passes.
Yeah, most of the people will only use the insert one. But just in case, you created tickets and now I need to change the date or the address of the venue. You send an update and automatically all of the users will receive a notification saying that their Google Wallet pass was updated with new information.
Wow. So I didn't even know all this stuff was in there. Look, I mean, you got like
Yeah.
all the possibility of different types, I guess, how they're displayed.
I
Colors.
was going to point out the fact that this is not theoretical. The last several Ticketmaster events I've gone to, my tickets have been in Google Wallet, and they actually have the ability to, besides just the normal like tap on something to get in, it also has the ability to pull up the whatever the kind of QR code they has as a line moving through it, stuff like that. But it pulls that up even. So I've been to several of them that didn't actually have the ability to just read it, but they could read the QR code from Wallet.
Well,
Yes.
just look at
It's controlled there.
Yeah, and we have a lot of security measures to prevent theft or sharing. So you can always be safe. We can rotate the barcodes. We can perform NFC integration if they have an NFC reader. So there are a lot of features that we can cover with Google Wallet. I'm just mentioning overall what you can do, but if you can be sure that your users will be safe.
I just see this scene here as well. App link data, so you can actually tap on like a wallet entry and have it launch the Android application and deep link into it.
Yes, for some passes you can suggest some apps, and when you open your pass inside Google Wallet, it can suggest you to open a specific app. Like if you're the airline and you open a boarding pass, maybe you want to see more features. You can tap and you go directly to the app.
Mhm.
So we have this features as well.
So this is not a question from the audience. This is actually more me. But in the highly unlikely event anything were to happen with Google Wallet, now I know if a user is utilizing their credit card, then the credit card company will usually make sure they don't take the loss on the theft. What if it's not a credit card? What could an app owner possibly do in order to try to help out a user who may have had a problem and it wasn't a Visa or MasterCard?
Okay, is it like a payment or another type of asset?
I mean, it's just we've got all this security,
Mm-hmm.
and security is great. But the reason we have security is because, every time we have a new evolution in security is because we had a new evolution in hacker. So I'm just trying to figure out what would the process, is there any kind of process where a developer or an app owner could at least start to get some help?
Okay, well, from the Google side, you can always, if you have access to the Wallet API in production, you have direct access to the support team, and they're very supportive. They have a very quick response time over there. And if you're thinking about overall security of the Google Wallet app itself in Android, for example, we have like multiple layers of like privacy features. Like we have a special pass. I don't think it's the scope of the challenge, at least, but we have a special pass which is even more secure than the standard ones. They require an additional layer of authentication, and it's encrypted on device. So all the other ones, most of the other passes can be shared across multiple devices or other accounts. But if you have like a driver's license, a passport, or a vaccination card, these ones are encrypted on device. So, well, nobody can access besides you there. And then for credit cards, of course, we have features to invalidate all the virtual cards that are added to Google Wallet. When you add your credit card to your Google Wallets, it's not your credit card numbers that are stored in Google Wallet. We create a virtual card, so it's a separate card with the same accounts in your bank.
Okay.
So we can invalidate, we can change that dynamically. So it's a very secure thing. So the bank knows that, it's coming from Google Wallet. And
and you won't have to replace your own credit card if something goes wrong, because that's not the number that was used.
Yeah, suppose that your physical card got stolen. You can still use your card in Google Wallet because it's a separate number.
That's a great feature right there.
Not to be pushy, but I am looking at, we have what, 6 questions for Edson in the queue, and I think, what time do you have to leave? So you have 22 minutes, or?
No, I'm available. I'm just worried about you and overall here.
Awesome.
But I'm
Yeah, because the questions are piling up. All right. This could do 2 in 1. Let's not, Pradeep, watch carefully. Okay, this is, does Google Wallet support Flutter Web? However, comma, why don't we also combine that with, does Google Wallet work outside of Android?
These are very good questions. Actually, if you have an Add to Google Wallet link, you can click it anywhere. Can be Android, can be another mobile operating system, can be web. You will always be able to add those passes to your Google account, because those passes are shared with your Google account. So you can add them anywhere. And if you have the link, you can always come back and access that particular pass in your browser. Okay, so you can access them with your browser. And maybe soon you will be able to have the Google Wallet experience not only on Android, in other devices as well. But I'm not promising anything, okay? You can use your browser so far, and you can see the pass again. You can add to your Google account. If you bookmark the URL, you can always go back and see your event tickets in your browser. And maybe the experience will be better soon.
Okay, well, we're just going to keep that between us and 200 of our closest friends, plus the other 5,000 that watch this on demand. Sorry,
I want to jump in real quick. I just want to say I'm a little bit amused, because this is Flutter. We know absolutely who the other mobile operating system is.
Wait, well, yeah, that's true. Okay, John, sorry, we're not talking about Windows.
Right. So what was the other part of this question? You said, does it work outside of Android?
No, Pradeep was asking if it works on web, and somebody was asking if it works anywhere other than Android. So why not just wrap those two together?
No. What I'm trying to say, there's 2 parts to this for a question. I think there's like, can I, as a developer, use the Google Wallet APIs and so on these different platforms, versus can an end user access Google Wallet on these other platforms? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that question can be taken both ways. Because coming from a developer, I'm wondering if they're thinking about the first way. Like, the first one was, can I use Google Wallet on Flutter Web? They're asking, can I use this with the Flutter Web technology stack, for example? Not, can I use it on the web? Does that make sense? So for what I'm trying to get is the RESTful. So to be clear, the RESTful APIs you would call from your backend system, right? So you can use that from wherever you access your own APIs, and that could be cloud functions that you just run anywhere. That would work in Flutter Web. So Flutter Web calls your cloud function. Your cloud function uses its service account and the wallet REST APIs to perform whatever actions it needs to do with the wallet API to, like, create a generic pass for someone, make it a loyalty card, whatever the things are with the API. So that would work on all these platforms. And then the end result is you also have the add to wallet URLs, which is like you're generating one of those, signing on the server side, you generate it. That gets sent back down to the app, be it Flutter Web, Android, whatever, and then they can tap on that. Now, if it's not Android, it's not going to open in the Android app. It's going to instead open up on the browser, and then your browser is going to then say log into your Google account, and then add this to your Google account. This whatever it is, the pass or whatever, right? So just wanted to explain that there's 2 different flows there we're talking about. One is the back end, like building it as a developer. The other one is as the user, right? When they see the result.
Perfect.
And just to remind newer people who came in, if you ask questions that do not have a queue in front of them, we assume that you are talking to each other in chat. Questions that have a queue are for us. Questions that do not have one are just for the general back and forth crosstalk in the chat.
So I was just looking at this. There's a great page for key concepts and terminology, which is used throughout the documentation. So what we're talking about: pass issuer, loyalty class, pass class, and so on and so forth. So it might be worth, like, just also taking for those that are interested in this, go through the introductory piece as well to understand what's going on. I'll pop this in the chat as well so that you can find it. But I think it's worth just going through the introduction as well as doing the getting started. But yeah, I think there's at the moment there's not like a I don't think, from what I can tell at the moment, there's not like a drop-in Dart package that lets you communicate with the API. Like you would call that RESTful API yourself using HTTP client, which is part of Flutter and Dart.
All righty. Richard, good to see you again, Richard. Is there a wrapper that includes Google Pay and other popular options?
There is, well, we in the beginning of the streaming, we talked about the distinction between Google Pay and Google Wallet. There is a Flutter plugin for wallets, and which is recent. You saw like 0.1. But we have another Google Pay plugin for Flutter, which allows you to integrate with different like payment service providers using Google Pay. So this one has been here for quite some time, and I don't work with the for the
I'm
Google
sure
Pay
Richard's
team.
very familiar with that one.
Yeah, this is the official Pay plugin, and then on Android it uses Google Pay, on iOS it uses Apple Pay, and this essentially is the idea is you can set up your whatever you're trying to purchase, the details of the purchase, and it'll make a button. So you've got your Apple Pay or Google Pay buttons you can put on the screen, basically, depending on what device that you're running on. Obviously, I think it matters. I'm not sure you can put the Apple Pay stuff, which probably won't work on a Google phone and so on. But yeah, it's all sort of all built in. This is the official guides and takes you through to the various portals and documentation for the various.
Yeah, for this one, we have like a good amount of people using. The Google Wallet plugin is new, and actually we launched it because of the Global Gamers Challenge.
Did you work on that? Did you build it, or did someone else build it?
No, I'll give kudos to Stephen McDonald. He's based in Sydney, Australia. So, Steve, if you ever watch this, like, thank you for the plugin.
All righty. Moving on, because we got a bunch of them. Can we do international transactions?
Google Wallet is just the storage for the information, credit cards, for example. And I said, in the moment you tap something and you want to pay, is Google Pay. And I assume so. You can do international transactions, but I'm not the right person to answer because I don't know much about Google Pay.
Not a problem. Hey, going back to one of your favorites, you said you like server-side stuff, right? Is it okay for the challenge if all of the wallet logic is handled on the server side? Now, that sounds more like a gamers rules thing, and there's nobody here who's on that.
But if I can answer this one, I say yes,
okay.
It's perfectly okay.
Awesome.
I mean, the expectation is that the end result is that you're using your like a Flutter or Dart application, but that doesn't matter like how that's built in the background. In fact, I would say I'd recommend that you do all that stuff server side. It doesn't really matter. It's in obviously Dart or JavaScript or whatever. That the Google Wallet stuff should happen there, right? For protecting your service.
Sounds good, Simon. We've got a sub 1 minute question. Let's not drag down our average. Moving on.
Go on. Go on. Hurry up.
Can we have Google Wallet in demo mode, or should we request production mode?
This one is for the challenge too, I guess. And yes, if you participate in the challenge, because when you create your account, you're in demo mode, which means that you can only issue passes to test accounts. You cannot do that to the public at large, or else people will be spamming with fake passes. So yes, you can request, you submit your app for the challenge in demo mode. After you submit that, during the judging phase, we'll request you to add some specific test accounts for the judges. So you don't have to be in production mode for the purpose of the challenge.
And then I guess if they wanted to actually, at the end of this, publish their product, then they could request the normal flow of requesting production access and then get approved by the wallet team.
Yeah, because the Google Wallet team, they need to take additional steps to give you production access, or else people would be like selling fake like event tickets or something like that. So we have additional security steps before granting production
selling more
access.
event tickets than they have. By the
Yeah.
way, what was that concert you did with Ticketmaster, Danielle?
Oh, I've done several of these. Last time I took my little 12-year-old niece to see Jurassic World live.
Sorry, that was a Taylor Swift joke about the
No,
tickets
yeah,
that you don't
fine.
have.
Yeah. Oh, I got you.
Anyway,
My
Go on.
my question kind of on this is, I don't think we've covered it, but let's say I did want to take my product live and use it. What are the costs?
For Google Wallet, 0.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay anything to go to production.
Nice.
Nice. See, now if this was Apple, oh, never mind.
You know, he'd worked so hard not to mention that name.
Go on. Moving on.
Moving on. Now that I've made 65% of America angry, is this SDK not for wallet provisioning?
Provisioning. Well, I don't know which SDK we're talking about. If it's for the Flutter plugin, the Flutter plugin is a way for you to easily create an Add to Google Wallet button to your app. Because there are certain rules like format, positioning, padding, language. So the plugin helps you to do that. But for the Jot itself, then as we mentioned before, you can create that through REST. You can create client side. You can create with the Android SDK. There are multiple different ways for you to do that.
Okay. And for everyone who's watching, remember, we're here every week. And unlike a lot of times when we go to speak at conferences, those are easy to prepare for because we get ready to handle any question on that topic. When we sit up here every week, we handle any question you throw at us, period. Which, if you want to see us sweat, start throwing questions about FFI.
If you want to see a sweat, join one of the times when Simon is away. Getting back to the office. Yeah.
But basically, I'm saying show up every Wednesday. So we're here. Moving on.
Share the channel with your friends.
Yes. Share it with your friends, your relatives. Share it with your enemies. I don't care. Just get them to subscribe. Does Google Wallet SDK support Open ID 4VC credentials?
Well, the Google Wallet SDK doesn't handle authentication. That is delegated to Google Cloud. So, but OpenID, I think it's technically possible. Not sure if you want to do that because, as we mentioned before, the important thing for Google Wallet is that you need the credentials to sign your Jot. You can authenticate to the Google Wallet API, but you still need the credentials to sign the Jot. So you can do that. I don't think it's something worth, but again, anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
You can try.
Now, Mr. Jackass, you always like to do this to us in chat, but you never want to come up here on the stream and ask it in person. He always claims he's at work. There are 2 Flutter plugins for adding to Google Wallet. Which is the recommended one?
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. Of
See,
course,
Roman's one of those people who will keep coming up with things like this, but I really want him to be on the show when he asks. And he keeps dodging us because he doesn't want to be in the hot seat.
Yeah. This is the official one. Yeah. Yeah, provided by google.dev.
Okay, let me get back here. Got a lot of questions. I'm trying to pick through the ones that are for you, Edson.
Mm-hmm.
Going quickly. See, I had to. Okay, no, I think we got them. Checking again. Simon, say something. Talk. Buy me time.
I'm talking on mute. It's fine. Anyway,
this is why we don't let him drive.
Yeah. I was gonna say there's add to Google Wallet by some community members and Flutter Google Wallet. I have no idea. Not used these. Don't know the veracity. Don't know who made them. Apparently their tests are passing though. But yeah, I mean, like again, it's a lot of this is just a wrap around the same API, which is just to see is it available, and then save passes, right? Which is what the other plugin now offers, and if it works with the correct, as we said, it follows the design guidelines, which is very important. So,
yeah, in general, if there's an official Google one, my barrier to go to somewhere else, it's not that it's impossible. I can find a better one, but I'm very distrustful. I definitely would go to the Google one first.
Yeah, I'm not saying that the other ones don't work. I'm just saying that if you complain to me, I'll try to fix the one for the official one. I can't say anything about the other ones.
I think if I was to say anything, it would be nice to have a Dart. So we say Flutter and Dart, right? So Dart is the language, and Flutter is the UI toolkit. So it's great to have a Flutter SDK that shows us the visual component, but I think there's probably room to have a Dart package for Google Wallet for the server side, right? For those people that want to call the RESTful API without having to manually go through the steps of configuring it, right?
Well, in the past 4 weeks, we had a major engineering effort, and we published SDKs for a lot of different languages. And I don't know if I can say that. I think we have one for Dart, but since I'm not a Dart developer, I don't know if it's there. I know that it's available for JavaScript, for Python, for PHP, for Java, for Go, because that's the one I've seen. And I should have checked if the one for Dart was available. But I think there is. I'm just not confirming that because I didn't check.
No worries. But I think, yeah, if there wasn't, that'd be a really nice addition as well, right?
Yeah, agreed.
I need to also repeat a point of order that we normally say early on. Normally, this show has 0 Google employees on it. Today, we have Edson. He is the only Google employee. He is on the wallet team. No one here is on the Flutter team. So, because I'm seeing some questions like, what kind of updates are there going to be in Flutter? Look at the roadmap and you tell me, please, because they don't tell us anything, super special. They don't invite us to lunch and tell us what their plans are. This is where we find it, same as you. So if you say, what updates can we expect? And we say, we don't know. That's because we really don't know. We don't work for Google. We built the community, us and about 25 other people.
I'm actually really interested in some of these language updates, like the import short syntax and primary constructors. So we can talk about those later, though.
Yep. All right. We actually had a number of, and sorry, Clip, I had missed yours earlier. I had to read a little deeper. We need to add test users in our Google account so judges can add their passes we developed to their Google Wallet. Will they be shared? That's another interesting thing too.
He
How
answered
are
that,
they
though.
handling them?
Go ahead.
After the submissions are closed, so we have all the projects, we're going to reach out to the developers and we're going to share the test accounts. We just didn't want the test accounts to be available on the website.
Right. That's another interesting one, though. I had not thought of it with the new requirements for putting stuff on the app stores. How I'm wondering about people finding testers, but that's not the question of the moment. So let's see here. Newbie question. Richard, you don't ask newbie questions. Do you need your own database to keep individual event tickets information?
Well, of course, the event tickets in Google Wallet will be stored in the Google Wallet API, but I think it's a very good recommendation that you should own your own database to keep track of the tickets.
Okay. Very good. Let's see here. While integrating Google Wallet, can we skip the credentials part from GCP if we're already using Firebase as our backend?
If you already have a service account, you can reuse that service account, even though I would recommend you to create a different one just because of permissions. But you still need to download the service account credentials.
So when you build the service account, you can assign. Sorry, under the oh goodness me, what's the I am section of Google Cloud, you can choose your service account and say add roles and add permissions, and then you'll be able to add the wallet API for access. And you're basically saying that this service account has access to the wallet API. You can actually do that to your default account. That automatically gets released by I think it's called Firebase admin. I forget, but it's the one that's actually deployed for Firebase Cloud Functions. So if you just do a normal Cloud Function, you're already doing those. The service account that's automatically used by that, you can give it access to the wallet API. Yeah, there you go. And then it should all be good. But obviously, again, there's always good to compartmentalize kind of like your service account usage rather than having one service account that can do everything, because then that, again, defeats the purpose of security in that perspective. But I think for the gamers challenge, it's probably practical to do something simple.
Yes. Yeah, you'll be terrified by the experience when one of your service accounts is compromised and you learn that they had access to everything. So that's why I recommend create separate ones.
Okay. All right. Let me see here real quick. I don't want to contradict anyone here. Randall's mentioning we still have a lot of questions in the queue. We're already an hour in. So any other questions for Edson, please ask him real quick. Otherwise, we're probably going to have to hold off. And Alex, yours is the one I was referring to a moment ago. So your homework is to go take a look at that roadmap while the rest of us are talking, and then come back in about 20 minutes and tell us all the exciting stuff that's coming up. And also, please carefully double check when on the roadmap it says get Scott new shirts, because the necks on mine are starting to get a little limp there. I need some new shirts. All right. So right now, I think we've got all the wallet questions handled. So let's go back to the old questions. I think Jerbs, you're probably feeling like that skeleton in the meme that says waiting for Gradle to build, because you've been waiting for your question to be asked. On my website, which is a Flutter web app, hopefully it's a web app, not a website, the fonts look different when viewed from a computer web browser compared to when viewed from a mobile web browser. Any idea why?
I can tell you exactly why.
Fonts.
So when using the desktop browser, you're using the HTML renderer, and when you use the mobile browser, using the Canvas renderer. You can force the renderer. There's a page on the Flutter site. So when you build, I'll bring this up on the screen here. There's a link in the chat as well to this page, but when you build, you can choose the HTML render or the Canvas kit renderer. Let me just do this. This feels better. Hang on. There we go. Right. Yeah. So HTML kit renderer and the Canvas kit renderer. And when you build, you can actually say that you want to build it only with the Canvas kit renderer, and that use the Canvas kit on the browser as well. So there you go. That would actually solve your problem. So just by building it with the Canvas kit renderer should solve your specific font rendering issue.
And did you see that, Edson?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I've learned.
I need a shirt. I need a shirt.
I'll ask Calvin from the Flutter team.
Oh yeah, there we go. So now, boy, it's a long one, Michael. Need to implement a server client architecture. Any advice on strategies for keeping data synced between the server and multiple clients that will be on or offline? Clients may also have data for updating, I'm assuming, to the server. No, we've never run into this kind of use case, Simon.
Hey, wait. This is like nice, simple question. Yes, sure. Any advice or strategy for keeping data sync between server and multiple clients that way online, offline clients may? This is a standard syncing problem, right? So the standard syncing algorithms that have been known. Obviously, you're implementing your own architecture, so that's the special use case. But for the generic sort of option, obviously, it's Firestore, right? So when it comes, it's done for you, right? The client libraries handle it, the server handles it. But if you're trying to do your own one, there is syncing algorithms, and I know that there's some that are built there's actually libraries on Pub, but I forget their names, and I completely forget the name of the algorithm as well. let me just see if I can. Oh, it's going to bug me. I mean, to be honest, you can just use normally the way that you would do some of these the simple matching around these things are just version numbers, right? So you just say the most recent change updates a version number, and you have one single source of truth to server. So although they can make changes locally, that's considered not updated with a version number until it gets synced with the server, and then you have to do your own treatment of if you want the most recent one. There's a ton of it's like diffing, right? Like Git diffing is just a difficult problem. What happens when you get a conflict, and that's kind of trying to stay out of those situations is important. I can't for the life of me find this algorithm. It's really annoying me now. Maybe we can have a look later on, but there is some standard algorithms.
Time is flown, but my hour is up. So
Oh,
I
yes.
got to get back to the day job.
Thank you for
Do
coming.
you know what we're doing time-wise next week?
No.
Okay.
Let's just treat it. We'll treat it as we'll still treat it as 9 a.m. PST for now.
Okay, sounds good. See y'all then.
See you then.
See, 9 o'clock a.m. Pacific time next week, because the U.S. is going through a stupid time zone change again.
Yeah.
So, all right. Let's see here. Jumping back down, we have some more questions for Edson. So sorry about those of you who have been waiting.
We will get to all questions that
Yep.
have been asked.
Is the Google Wallet like MetaMask?
Yeah, I saw this question in the chat, and I had to Google what is MetaMask. But it's thing MetaMask seems to be a crypto wallet, and Google Wallet has nothing to do with that. Google Wallet is just a place you can store your digital assets, like loyalty cards, boarding passes, credit cards, and that's it.
I have a question for you, Edson. Actually,
Please.
can we store like a user's private information in there? So, for example, let's say they've got a private key. So let's say we could treat their pass as the private part of they own that's theirs. And then let's say the app needs to sign something or perform some task, like a payment or whatever, our own payment system, whatever. We would need that private part of that key to actually perform that transaction. So I'm just wondering, is there a way of storing or adding encrypted data to a pass?
Think you can? Well, I think we could use NFC to do that, but it would require some hardware. So you can send a key, and because
key exchange.
Yeah. So for the other types of informations, most it's basically QR codes and barcodes that we can share in a pass. So the only way to convey this kind of information would be through an NFC integration.
Okay, good to know.
You know, I just had a realization. People keep talking about this demo mode, and I'm like, what's demo mode? It must be a game thing. What's demo mode? And I just realized they're talking about what we normally call a development build.
Yeah.
Because it puts that flag in the upper right that we see. A lot of the veteran developers, one of the first things they do is they go in and they turn that flag off, so you never see it.
Okay.
And we just call it a development build. That's why I'm like, you're talking about a demo mode. Demo mode? What demo mode?
So basically, it means that you can't release a production app with the Google API until it's signed off for production. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that actually became relevant when I was reading this, because there's a follow-up that says it's specifically talking about a development build or demo mode. Made an Android app with wallet integration for a challenge. Do they need to publish it on Google Play, or can they just send the APK on DevPost, since this is a development build, not a release build?
Mm-hmm. I would check with the DevPost team, because they're checking the submission part. So I think it's better to have an answer from them.
I'll be honest. I don't know about sending an APK, but from my understanding, it doesn't have to be published on Google Play. I mean, you could submit I think the idea was to have a URL for a web version, but that's not necessarily a requirement for it to be web. But yeah, I think make a request on the dev post forum.
You know, I'm so mad at Danielle. She mentioned the word time zone, time zone, where Randall could hear.
Right, come.
Randall tends to go off on some diatribes about time zones. Anyway, moving on. Michael, we've already asked your question. I got to take it off the list. Ben, okay. I've built my game for web, but in my Android phone, I can't rotate the screen to landscape, correct? Can we rotate the entire app 90 degrees for web browser on mobile? Now, that's interesting because the web browser is what's going to be getting the information that the screen is rotated. How does the web app get that information?
Hang on. I've built my game for web, but my Android phone, I cannot rotate the screen to landscape. Oh, I see what you're saying. Sorry. So no, this is like, even if your phone is in portrait landscape, your web browser is always like top to bottom rendered.
The web browser is probably going to shift, right?
There should be no reason why this should, it will automatically shift. Like if you've got your Android phone unlocked to screen rotation, it will shift automatically. But you need to make sure your game reacts to the fact that the size has changed. You can use its orientation. Yeah. So if you use media query.orientation of, that'll give you if it's landscape or portrait, and that should work on web. No worries.
Now I'm I'm anticipating a couple of interesting issues here. For one, Ben, it sounds to me like your web browser is not rotating. Forget your Flutter app. I'm talking about your Chrome is not rotating. And it sounds like it's set to not rotate, which, okay, that's fine. And yes, you can still reach out to the device and find out what the orientation is, and you can rotate your web app, even if the web browser doesn't rotate. And now you have a layout headache that's going to take a lot of paracetamol to fix, because you've got your app rotating inside a browser that's not rotating. So my first question would be, why isn't the browser rotating in the first place?
I mean, even if the user locks the screen, you can normally read the sensor information and then go, okay, they rotate the device, and I'm going to just freely rotate. You can use the rotated box, wrap your entire app in a rotated box, give it how many turns, which is how many 90 degrees you want it to rotate, and it'll just do it.
Right, but then the biggest three words in every language are "and then what?" Yeah, because exactly. Now you've got a rotated web app inside of a web page that didn't rotate.
It's not
what just happened to your layout.
Yeah, it's not just that. You're also going to run into problems. I believe rotated box is before layout, but I may be wrong. I know if you use the transform widget, it will do it after layout, which case you're just rotating the rendering of your product. So if it was laid out in portrait and then you rotate it on landscape, it would take up a little slice of the left hand side of the screen. It wouldn't actually fill the width of the screen. So yeah.
Always fun. Never stop asking the first question. Always ask, and then what? Because sometimes the answer will give you a headache. All right. Pradeep again. Dialogflow is not supported in web app. How to integrate this in web app? Put in a PR, or at least an issue ticket.
I mean, Dialogflow itself is just an API. So I don't see any reason why you couldn't do that from Flutter Web. I'm just going to take a quick look, but I'm pretty sure it has a REST API. Yep, Dialogflow ES REST API. Hang on. Let's get this up on the screen.
Any other questions for Edson, please ask them now. Otherwise, we're going to let him escape.
Let's see if I can get this up on the screen here.
Remember, we don't work for Google. They can't yell at us.
Yeah, so it looks like I just dialog flow. Here's the API, REST API, v2, and here's the endpoint you need to call, and delete agent, create agent, export, import, search, train, you name it, you can do it. Whatever you're trying to do, I guess. I don't know the details, but intents, session. So assume you start an agent session and you have a context. And once you create that context, you're going to be entering stuff into that context and then getting the result out. But yeah, there's no reason why you couldn't use the RESTful API.
Okay.
The other thing you
one
can
more.
Pradeep, it's the same thing we're just saying with the wallet API briefly, that you can call that on the back end, and then you're just calling your own APIs. So you can always do that to solve the problem of using Flutter Web.
Yeah. All righty. Richard, we knew we can always count on you. Is there a real-time stream from Google Wallet that we can subscribe to for our own databases? And it's to update the database automatically is the idea.
Yeah, I'm assuming that you want to be notified about the passes that people are adding and removing from their wallets. So luckily, we have callbacks. So we have add and delete callbacks that you can see in the REST documentation. So if you configure those endpoints in your passes, anytime a user adds and deletes that, you're going to receive a callback. Then you can update your internal database. So you know effectively, because one thing is for you to create the pass, the other thing is for the user to be actually using that in their wallet. So you can have this information if you configure the add and delete callback endpoints.
Good to know.
Which is the same questions that Fabian is asking. How do you know if they really scanned or added something in real life? Well, you can know that through the add and delete callbacks from the, and you can check that on the documentation.
Alrighty.
Yeah, here we go. I found it. So for example, we're just talking about the generic classes. So sorry, we're talking about generic passes. You obviously you have to design a generic class. This is your class of wallet entry. This might be your template you're using and everything else. And here's your callback options. When you're actually adding a pass for a user, that's a generic object, right? So you're defining this is the parameters for this class. And here are the callback options. There you go. For the merchant, you're going to host on HTTPS, blah, blah, blah. Is there I'm assuming that there's details somewhere about what is actually sent to the callback. There'll be a page in the documentation somewhere.
Yeah, I shared in the chat if you could post.
Oh, you shared it in the chat. Yeah, no, I can do that. Sorry.
Doing it right now, so that we don't have 25 people.
It's in the chat.
Sharing it just like that. I just said I'm doing it right now.
Tonight.
See what happens when we let him drive.
It's quicker. There you go.
Okay. Also, we did pick up another question that I swear I did see it earlier. Fabian, I think I did see it earlier, but for some reason it did not come up in the list, which is, since we can only access the passes that we've issued, how do we know the user has scanned something in real life and added it to their wallet the way you've mentioned before?
It's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you do it with the add and delete callbacks.
Okay.
So it looks like, yeah, so you receive essentially like a webhook, right? You're receiving a callback, and then you'll get the you'll have a sender, and then it's EC2 signed. So you have to prove that it was sent from the earth by Google to you. So this stops the third party from faking a message saying that they pressed on it when they didn't. And that's essentially what this verified signature piece is about. But once you've done that, you have your expected format, and this will give you the various pieces like the class object, which should be the particular this object ID is what's going to particularly identify that issued pass, and then if it's a delete or save, what time. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Wonderful.
Alrighty. Let me see here.
So there was another question here. Sorry,
I'm getting it right now. Oh, okay. You want to follow up with that one first?
And that literally is what's on that. That's literally what is on that link. So we just show just to make sure that you're
Mhm.
aware. There you go.
Right. Okay, so wait a minute. Okay, can we have one person drive, please? I just lost a question. There we go. How do you design a card for Google Wallet? Thank you for the save, Randall. Alex, if you're doing it for maybe one of those Facebook type games for women, women typically like purple and chocolate. So I would, design something that followed that theme. I don't know. Edson, do you have any other ideas?
Yes, passes in Google Wallet are defined in JSON, and we can visually design the passes using the pass builder. And I'm trying to find here the.
I've got it here on the screen.
Okay.
It's okay.
Cool. So yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, this allows you to choose your various colors and parameters and so on.
It can be purple. You can switch coffee for chocolate. It's going to be wildly popular.
So there you go. Make a match 3 game with unicorns that's purple, and you have a card on there that's purple, and the prize is chocolate. You're going to make $1 gazillion.
So we talked about that. Like we're talking about these generic passes, right, with the callback options. Does that, if someone's like scanning, let's say. Sorry, I'm just thinking about this. Let's say coffee loyalty. We're just talking about, right? Like there's that kind of notion that there's going to have to be an integration with the till system or the POS system, right? So that like when it scans the QR code, it goes, okay, this is a Google. This is from the QR code that we issued with a part of our wallet thing, and then deduct that from their account on the system. Is there a way of updating the pass remotely, like with the API then to say, okay, you've got more points to show it on the pass?
Yes. Google Wallet is just this way to store the information that the user is conveying to your system. So once your system has processed the information, you want to update that in the user's pass. Luckily, with Google Wallet, it's super simple. If you're using the REST API, for example, you can issue a PUT or a patch request to the REST API, and your user will receive the updated pass information.
Wow. Okay. So it just, you patch it here based on the same ID, the object ID that you issued for them, and then this is going to update whatever information that you've put into it. So this could be then the number of points displayed on their card.
Mm-hmm. You could change
various bits of information.
Yeah, some companies, they even change the image to say, oh, now you're gold tier. Yeah. Or
right. Gold, silver, bronze.
You can change the color of the pass. You can do like creative things there.
Interesting. I noticed there was a thing called messages attached to a pass as well. Is that like for a history of things, or am I missing? Was I reading something else?
The messages right now, when you attach one, the user will be able to see them in the back of the pass. They will also receive a notification saying, "Oh, your pass has new information. Your pass has been updated." And maybe soon you'll be able to use some similar resources to show actual messages to your users as notifications. But I'm not promising anything. Okay, I'm using the legal term here.
What was that? Oh, that reminds me way back when Flutter started.
Allegedly, we had this. Yeah.
Wem Leeler was doing DevRel for the Flutter team, and when Flutter first started, I didn't understand how things worked, and I said, "Wem, how is it that Flutter can use iOS style widgets and not get sued by Apple?" So Wem comes back and he says, quick as a flash, he says, legal doesn't let me answer legal questions.
Oh, I'll add this to my.
Add that to your repertoire, right?
It's a quick dodge, so you can get out of it.
Okay.
I mean, it's true though that you shouldn't be, right? It's like whenever you say something legally, it's like, but we're not offering official legal advice, right? Like this is not. Don't do what we said.
Nope. Now again, Simon and I don't work for Google. Neither does Randall. But we spend enough time around Googlers. We know Basically, oh yeah, that's going to be a legal question. Don't even ask.
This I can really see. Sorry, I'm just browsing this API. I can really see like the power of this API now. Like, so you got like notifications. You can choose whether they get a upcoming notification or expiring notification. There's a lot more to this than meets the initial eye, right? There's a lot of options and configurations that you can put into these things, right? So
Oh yeah, we have lots of features, and for example, event tickets. You might even be able to notify the user, "Oh, it's time for you to leave for your show, so for brother show, or else you'll be late." And yeah,
You can do all kinds of stuff controlling that. And in fact, just a quick moment a good moment for me to raise this point. Next week, I'm going to try to get some people in here from Ecosystems, which Ecosystems is GDG, GDE, Women Tech Makers, and GDSC. The reason for that is there is a big Google AI push right now with Gemini and Gemma and SDKs for getting them into your Flutter apps and all kinds of workshops and everything going on. And they are free. Did I say free? And you know what? All this training on Gemini and Gemma is going to be free right through the GDG program, the GDE program, and anybody can access it from anywhere. So I'm going to try and get those folks who are behind this on the show next week. So all 305 of you show up 1 week from today.
I'm going to caveat this and say yes, but not in Europe right now, or the UK.
Okay, good point. My bad. You
there's
cannot access. Let me phrase this very carefully.
Not legal advice.
You cannot access any of the Google AI stuff that you really want to play with if you have a European IP.
Other VPNs may be available. Right. Yeah. So there's an official
VPN. What's a VPN? I wasn't suggesting
exactly.
a VPN.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Nope,
yeah. So as you
no
can see
idea.
here, available regions. This is where you can officially access it from. So I'll post this link in the chat for those that want to play along. Yeah.
All right. We have 14 questions left at an average of 5 minutes apiece. That's going to put the stream beyond 3 hours. Look, we try for y'all, but damn.
Right. I think is it time to cut off questions then?
Yeah, let's cut them off, but let's try and we're going to try and go fast, which we never do. All right. Major optimizations for startup speed. Number one is initialize your junk asynchronously behind a splash screen. Maybe use a little animation for splash to buy yourself some time so the user doesn't feel like things are slow.
The first I did actually. I'm going to say go watch my Flutter talk where I literally go through this. You can. I'll go find a link and post it in the chat in a second.
You go find the link. I'm gonna find out why Randall is smacking me with a private message here. Yeah, Edson, you're welcome to hang out. You can go. You can whatever. People have had more than enough opportunity to ask you every single question that they could want.
Yeah, I was going to mention that maybe I should go grab a snack for going to the afternoon meetings. So
I need to get more mud. I'm running out here, but I'm getting to the good stuff at the bottom of the mug.
The link to my video in FlutterCon talk is right there in the chat. You can find it on all the socials and all that fun stuff. The question, hang on, let me just get back to this question.
Yeah, folks. Sorry. I'd just like to say thank you so much. Thank you all for the questions.
Coming.
Thank you, guys. It was so fun. I just wish we were having the streaming like in a pub, sharing some food.
Here's the other thing though. Okay, since we're going to be trying to do AI next week, you have 2 weeks to go learn the Flutter APIs for this and the Flutter package, so you can come back and intelligently talk to us about how to hook this up in a Flutter app.
Okay,
because we'll be glad to have you back.
And to answer your question,
no promises.
To answer your question, how do you know we're not in a pub?
Oh, good one.
You can't see anything behind me. You don't know what's back there.
Yeah, I see the virtual background. Yeah.
Yeah, Simon and I have never had a
horrid.
meeting with the Flutter team while we're sitting in a pub in London at midnight. Nope.
Yeah, this never happened before.
No way.
Right. Hey, thank you for coming, Edson. It was really great having you. And
come back anytime.
Come back anytime.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I had a great time. Yeah, you guys are awesome.
Hey, great having you.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Cheers.
Right.
Okay, and we are talking about startup speed. We've got the link right there. But yeah, one of the main things that'll slow you down is initializations, and if you can do those async and watch Simon's talk.
Yeah, I will mention some other things that people do wrong, and that is don't do network when your app starts up. If you've got to do network and they're on a bad internet connection, you need to set your timeouts, because you can't have a timeout of 30 seconds. They're going to sit there on a splash screen for 30 seconds until it times out for one connection. And you make 5 API calls that all have to time out 30 seconds each. Your app just stalls on the startup screen. So don't do that. Don't, what you need to do.
I know it's not exactly the easiest or best way in the world to do it, but another possibility is saving values from the previous session and using them as cached values to load up on startup right away. This is particularly if you've got something like a chat feed or a news feed. Okay, fine. Throw up the one that you have saved from the last session just so the user's got a running app in their hand. And then when the connection's done, then update it.
Yeah. So normally there's a case of that you can do something like just literally use the Dart.io package file just to store a JSON file, make whatever model you want, and you can store data to disk. When it changes, when the app loads up, you load it from disk. That can contain the person's user profile, their last posts, all the information that you want. That's the easiest way. However, if you're using Block, you've got hydrated Block. If you're using Riverpod, there's hydrated Riverpod stuff now, isn't there?
It's not formal. I think there's a third party that's doing it. But it's simple enough to do. It's like 10 lines of code. Big deal.
And the idea behind that is the same thing. You have your Block or your Riverpod provider. They can be hydrated. In other words, they can be all the water sucked out of them, right? They can be basically stored to disk, and then they can be rehydrated when they come back. So think Back to the Future, hydrate my pizza. That's the thing. Do you not remember that? That was awesome.
Yeah. It's still weird to think of when you say disk that it doesn't mean something spinning somewhere anymore.
I know, right?
I'm
well, and the funny thing, I've been rereading Terry Pratchett's Discworld. I'm on Mort, which if you've never read Mort, it's a good standalone. It's hilarious. Basically, it's a take on Death Takes a Holiday, quite literally.
Oh, that's good.
Now we're in
all right. What's the local database you prefer in Flutter? SQLite, Hive, Realm. Why?
None of those. None of those. There you go.
Really?
ISAR.
Oh, yes, that's true. ISAR. I was thinking that ISAR was listed. Nope. Yep. Yeah. ISAR. I'll go. I was going to look it up, but okay, sure.
Links in the chat already there. So yeah, ISAR. You'll find it on pub.dev, and you just name it. It's great feature set, highly scalable, blah blah blah. And it's super fast, and it has like a really great dev tool system where you can actually see what's in the database and queries and changes and all sorts. And it's basically faster than all the competition. So why not?
There you go.
There are also a number of solutions that I'm looking at, but I haven't used in production yet with anybody, is things that do offline syncing. Like Firebase has a limited amount of that, but there's explicit solutions like PowerSync now. And that basically has a local SQLite that will push itself to the remote when it connects up to the Postgres remote database. So it's really interestingly cool. Haven't had a chance to use it for real though, but I've seen some good stuff about it.
Very cool. And I know I mentioned GDG. A lot of great stuff in the Google developer groups, communities. Check it out. All kinds of free stuff, including free credits for Skills Boost. Hint, hint. So definitely want to check that out there. All right, moving on. And any recommendations for wrapping native SDKs that don't have FAR equivalent and no vendor provided way?
I mean, yeah, that's using method channels that's built into Flutter. So there's a whole set of guidelines about building what's called a plugin, which is how you access your native SDK. on the Flutter website. So I will go find that and stick it in the chat. Packages and plugins. So there's hang on, I'm bring this up. There's two sections in documentation: platform integration, and there's also packages and plugins. There's more about the package ecosystem, but there is developing packages and plugins, which is something you probably want to read. And this is about how you go around building your own package/plugin. But the platform integration piece is actually tells you how you would integrate with this particular platform. So which one was it? What platform's the point? Right, platform specific code. This is the bit you want. So I'll pop this in the chat, but it's basically the same thing. It talks about how you build the stuff for Flutter, how you link it with a particular SDK. There's plenty of examples going around, but this is just one basically. And there's lots of guides online. This is not new. This is day one Flutter stuff that's been around a long time. So yeah, you'll be able to find lots of things.
Cool. All right. Has anyone tried Google Project IDX Dev in the browser? I have heard so much about it, but I have not done it myself.
Played with it a bit. I'm not motivated to use it just because it's interesting, but I'm already like, native VS Code, and I don't need something external to compile for iOS and Android. Yeah. So I'm kind of like all set on my Mac already. I've played with it a little bit. It does have access to Gemini inside to be able to evaluate the code base and answer questions about it. But I haven't gotten really good, like complete answers for it. It's kind of about at the same level as Copilot, I think, in terms of skill. But it just hasn't. I'm not motivated to use a web browser that doesn't have all my particular things working out. So I guess we lost Simon, huh?
Hey, Marco has tried it, but he also uses Android Studio on a Mac. You use a Mac? Marco.
Hello.
For those who don't know, I am not Apple's biggest fan. Anyway.
Second biggest? Third biggest? Okay, never mind. How to replicate the animations. What does that mean?
Well, it's pretty. We're getting used to the language here. Mainly, you need to take them a piece at a time and try to figure out what you can do to build each one of those pieces. Is it going to be a box? Is it going to be a box with rounded corners? Is it going to be a pill, an oval? Do you need to do something with a custom clipper for a custom cutout? Do you need to do something with a custom path? Every answer is going to be different. So you want to take a look at how complicated is your animation and go from there. If you're going to use pre-made pieces, then you're probably going to want to look at animating them across the screen using a function that will give you back a different location for each moment. But if you're going to do this, if you're going to use what we call physics animations, you really need to key them so that they are running off of a timer. Okay, must run off a timer. And when you run a timer, there is a small amount of, what is the word? It's off by a tiny amount. So if you are using a timer in milliseconds to measure 500 milliseconds and check at 500 milliseconds if something's happened, you could theoretically miss that and skip it, which is a technique that people do for a periodic timer in order to not have that happen. Is they do it in microseconds, and they have the check every 500 microseconds, which means it's checking for a condition twice per millisecond. What that does is it helps make sure that you don't miss your trigger time. And the reason that you want this to be done on time is if you run an animation on how much movement per frame, expecting the user to get 60 frames per second, good luck. Because one user might be overloaded on their equipment and getting 30, another one might be getting 90. So your animations the speed of your animations is going to change all over the place. So what you really want to do there is make sure that it's locked to time, to a periodic timer, And then also you want to make sure that your periodic timer, of course, its actual clock speed that it's using to check is the next increment faster than the one you actually want to measure. In other words, if you want to measure in seconds, check every 500 milliseconds. If you want to check for 500 milliseconds, check every 500 microseconds. That's what'll keep you from missing it.
If you want a simple solution, Flame or Rive are both great annotation frameworks.
Yep.
That's simple that way. And you don't have to think about any of this stuff. You just say, I want this sprite and make it go over there. And if
You
it
said
hits
how to replicate it, not how to use a third-party package.
Oh,
But,
I'm
yeah.
going to send people third-party packages instantly because I don't want to reproduce any of that stuff. I'm simple.
All right. Because I just finished a whole lot of talking, Randall, you take this one. How to hide an environment variable.
Ultimately, if you're on the web, you can't. You can always set a debugger right at the point where it's using it in the API call and see exactly what the value is, no matter how you compute and obscure it all that different way. So it's like you can't. There are packages that enable you to have an env file when you're running locally and compiling locally. That way you don't have to put it in your Git checkout, which you definitely don't want it in there because then it's going to be public and shared and all that sort of stuff, especially if you're doing open source, particularly if you're doing open source. There are also other packages. I just had a client make the transition from the env package, the .env is what it's called, to enved, which has at least the ability to do, it uses build runner to encrypt the data so that it's not obvious without running through, the source code or the what do you call that when you decompiled code to figure out what's actually happening, or you're walking through with a debugger or something like that. So that's another popular package. Enved, I think, is kind of the best breed of those. But ultimately, if someone wants to get your credentials, they will. It's just a matter of time. So
what was that package you were just saying that uses build
Enved.
runner? Enved.
ENVIED. Yeah. Actually, if you want to bring that up, yeah, because that might be interesting for people. But I was doing research on this because I had a client that needed to hide stuff, and
Gotcha.
it was coming out clear in their web assets. And I said, "Oh, we don't want the password there, do we?" So this one worked by compiling code that basically it generates the key from the source code, and then only the key goes into the package, and it knows how to decrypt that. So you have to do a lot of work to figure out what it is. You can't just grep through the binary, the APK or whatever.
It's obfuscation, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah, it's just it makes it one step harder, and it's trivial to do as long as you're already using build runner and other things like freezed or riverpod. Then it won't matter much. Throwing one more build package.
And don't forget, obfuscation isn't. People think obfuscation is for your security or to help your code. No, the real reason to use obfuscation is job security, because if you're the only one who understands how the code works, they can't fire you.
Yeah.
It's kidding. Blimey.
All righty. But hey, I'm going to have to get going. I meant to go after 1 hour. It's 1 hour and 3/4.
Yep.
Right now, and there's still 8 more questions in the queue.
I'll hold
Folks, we love you, but only so much.
See you next week.
So I will catch you all next week. Remember, show up here. I am going to try to drag some people from the GDG program in so that we can talk about all these new initiatives with the hackathons for Gemini and Gemma, for the workshops that they're having and the training. Randall's in on all this as well. Where it's the GDGs, GDEs, GDSC, and women tech makers who are all involved in this. And it's going to be fun, and it's going to be free. It's not going to cost you a dime.
Yep.
Or a farthing.
Cool.
Yeah.
That said, I'm going to run away now.
Thanks, Scott.
Bye.
All right.
And then there was 2.
Yep.
Jinxed it. Yeah.
I know. All right. Oh,
Right.
I get to drive, don't I? I have to find these
Sure.
things. Let's see if Scott left it a mess or whether it's all there. Okay. Oh, here we go. I actually answered this in the chat. Why do we need to extend from class exception when implementing custom exceptions? Because we can throw anything, right? And the answer is that if someone wants to catch all exceptions, they'll catch exception as the base level class. But if your custom class isn't a subclass of exception, then it'll get thrown further up. And you really don't want to catch everything. You want to catch only at worst exception, because that will let errors leak by you deliberately, because errors means the programmer screwed up and needs to fix it.
Yeah. There is one of those things that we do talk about before. Exception is an exceptional situation, but can be recovered from. When error is, it should not be doing this ever. This is a bug, right? This is a problem. And I know that the term error is used for the variable name for an exception, which is quite common in Dart, but it's not the same thing. Okay, there's two different things. So that's the naming. Also, it implements exception, not extends exception. Okay, it's not a base class. It is an interface. Just want to make sure that's clear. But equally, as we said, you can throw any type of object, and I'm going to go for another one. Don't ever catch just exception, all exceptions. There's little to very no case that you actually want to catch all exceptions. You want to let them bubble up to your uncaught exception handler. We spoke about this last week in the zone. This is automatically implemented for you if you put Crashalytics in, or if you put Sentry, the Sentry package in. So they'll catch those exceptions from taking place and then report them to a backend system where you can see them and fix the bugs, right? So don't just catch all exceptions and ignore them. If you are going to catch all exceptions, at least log them, at least capture them, at least do something with them. Don't just go catch all exceptions and ignore. That's like the worst thing you can do.
All right, moving on.
I'm sorry, I just say this. I've seen it before in this whole point. I've seen it before, live apps that do this, and they're getting told that their app is crashing all the time, it's not behaving, and they've got no idea what's causing the problem, because they're doing this kind of thing of catching all exceptions. So just be cautious. Sorry.
Yeah, you should really have a system in place like Crashalytics or Sentry or something that if you have an unhandled exception, some report is made back to the home office. And if you're not doing that, then it's exactly as Simon said, sorry, where people aren't seeing that, so they're just getting bad results. So okay, on to the next one. When using slivers, if I have a layout error, for example, passing a render box instead of a render sliver, I usually have to restart to get rid of the error. Fixing it and hot reloading doesn't work.
Yep.
Oh, that's sad. That's true. It's just what it is.
Yeah. So hot reload is rebuilding your tree, but it will try and keep the state where possible. What you need to do is a hot restart in that situation. That's literally the difference between a hot reload and a hot restart. The reason why we have the two separations, in that if you're causing a bug that can't be resolved by hot reload, then hot restart is going to do it. Hot reload is just basically saying, rebuild my widgets. That's all it does. So if your layout is going to be reported the same, it's going to still be a problem in the new hot reload, right? What you could do is like press the back button in your app for it to like go back to the previous screen. And when you go back to the new screen, it's going to rebuild it using the new code then, right? So, let's say you fix the bug then. But yeah, no, this is expected behavior.
Right. Next one.
I don't know if there was a question there, but
yeah, it's sort of a statement. Yeah, sort of a statement. It wasn't a question. How do I use Firebase in Linux to create an app in Flutter? I don't think you can, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Firebase in Linux.
There is support for
okay. It's not Linux. It's desktop. Is what it's probably the Sanjay. The thing you're probably looking for is desktop. There are currently there's been several, and there are a couple new packages from the community that involved in using Firebase on desktop. You can just call the Firebase APIs, but again, it's what you just said. Can I use Firebase? What part of Firebase? That's really what it comes down to, right? So, for example, you talk about push notifications. Well, that's a different thing entirely, right? So, with push notifications on desktop, you use oh, goodness gracious me, what's the key name? There's the same thing that's used on web. I can't remember the name of the service. Oh, that's gonna. I've got.
Now it's going to bug you. Now you're going to be.
I'm going to go
Googling for a
find it.
while.
I'm going to have to go find it because it's going to.
Yep. Ask Bard. Bard will tell you.
The name of it's on the tip of my tongue. Hang on, let me go find it. I know where I can go find it. I think I know. Where I can go find
That's
it.
what Bard's good for. I mean, sorry, Gemini. I can't get over the fact that they changed the name of Bard. Bard was such a nice name, so distinct. Now it's Gemini and Gemini Advanced. Not to be confused with Gemini, the AI protocol. And not to be confused with Gemini Studio, where you can try things out. And they all have different levels of service and different ways of doing things. Not to be confused with Vertex. Sorry, you got it?
Okay, so yeah, it's called VAPID. It's a short name for Voluntary Application Server Identification. They're called VAPID keys, and there's a standard for it. So let me go through everyone this. Hang on, put this in the chat, and I'll bring it up on stream briefly. Here you go. So, for example, push, we're going to take as an example here. There's this article here, introducing VAPID for server identification. And this is it. So basically on the Firebase page, you can create a public-private key pair for VAPID. And then these are then used to identify your clients and your server. And you can use a whole push system, but this also means you can use it in the browser. It also means you can use it on the desktop. And there's a whole thing around using VAPID on the desktop as well. But yeah, there's a standard protocol. In fact, where is it? There's the RFC by M. Thompson, Mozilla, P. Bevelou, Google. There you go, 2016. So yeah, this is a standard protocol. It's been ratified, should we say? But yeah, anyway, there you go. So okay. I'm sure that will get you on your way to getting, for example, push working on Linux. But the thing is, again, Sanjay, post what your did he post anything? I didn't see the live chat. No, well, since he didn't post anything, I can't answer anymore. Let's just use that as a suggestion. But there's pub packages for various pieces. Oh, sorry, there is one pub package that is a go-to, which I should mention here, which is Google APIs. And if you look at the API, well, first of all, there's a huge API list of everything, like AdSense, AdMob, Advisory, AlloyDB, Analytics. I'm on A, right? And look at this.
Scroll, right? Baby, scroll.
So just name a Google API, and you're going to have a Dart interface to communicate with that API. In fact, do you know what I did see? I didn't check earlier. Is Wallet in here? Oh my goodness! There you go. That would have solved us a lot of problems, wouldn't it? So there you go.
Dart packages.
No, it's fine. Hang on. If I go, the documentation link doesn't work, but it's in here. So if I go into here, oops, wrong link. Oh, you know why? It's not processed correctly, the documentation. So for those that are curious, if you ever get this where you can't see the documentation over here on the right and it says unknown, that's because it couldn't generate it. But if you go to versions, you'll see here it's saying couldn't generate the analysis and the documentation, but you can go to the previous one and go to that instead. There you go. So that's why the links in the README didn't work. Anyway. So if I search wallet, look, it was a recent addition. Yeah, there's no wallet API here in the old doc. So this must have been in 13 wallet was added. Is it in the change log? Yeah, wallet objects new. There you go. Okay. So I don't have links to the documentation on it then at the moment because it didn't generate right. So I may poke the owner of this package to see what's going on. We'll probably just resubmit it with a point release. But anyway.
They also changed the doc generator recently and it screwed up a few things. And maybe that's one of the things that got screwed up.
Literally the result here, processing the package versions exceeded allocated duration.
No.
So it's just that it basically the analyzer gave up. It's
too big. It's too big.
it could be that literally was to do what it needs to do is too much because it's such a big package.
It's many Bothans have died bringing us this information.
Yeah. treat it reverently.
Yes.
Um,
Okay.
All right. Let's see what's next.
Next, general competition question, unrelated to the Google Wallet. Should we use the show license page, show about dialogue to display a license page in the apps we submit?
I mean, obviously, we don't work for the team, Wesley, and I hope you're still watching. But there's no harm in doing that.
Yeah.
It's automatic. Like it automatically picks out all the licenses from the packages, puts them in the screen, makes it all work for you. You don't have to do anything. There's no harm in putting a link to that. But I'm going to say this, I don't think there's a requirement to do so. So, there you go.
Okay. I have some problems writing services in Flutter. For example, I can easily make the UI part, but I can't convert the UI with written services. I think you're going to have a more specific question.
Yeah. Is that it? Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong.
That's it. Yeah.
I'm going to say that, it's great what you're saying here, but what do you mean by service? Do you mean like a Dart service, like a service written in Dart in the back end of your Flutter app? Do you mean an Android service using native code? I can see this going either way.
Yep.
Convert UI with written services. I can easily make UI part, but I can't convert UI. I mean, you wouldn't be converting any UI. And maybe it means like just building the backend piece behind the UI, and like it's finding that difficult. I think I would say, I mean, practice, right? Obviously, right? There's also a great Flutter roadmap. I think there's just a generally like having more experience in sort of like control flow operations functions, just general like design patterns and principles, right? For OOP can help in these kind of sort of areas. I'll put this link in the chat. But I think there's a kind of aspect of when you come up with trying to build something like this, just do it. And what I mean is just build something. Don't worry about it being correct. And then once you've got the experience of what you're trying to achieve, refactor it, rip it out, delete it, rebuild it. Now you've got that knowledge from building it the first time. Oh, I'm not going to do that again. We're going to change it to this structure and do it like that. Another way is having having a whiteboard or having a virtual whiteboard like a Miro or one of these other services online where you can like visually put your components of your app, your classes, and link them up and kind of help you visualize how your system behind the scenes works. But key to this, making services or like the stuff without UI is think about the standard practice of input, processing, output, right? You have your known inputs, you have a function you're calling with certain parameters, you have some sort of work it does, and you have an expected output, be it an event on a stream, be it a call to a server. And then you can then also write some unit tests around that and make sure it's working as you expect, right? But pretty much all that backend stuff should be able to be testable and work with without the UI being there. It's always just good practice because this way you can test them independently. However, Flutter does not require you to do that because you can actually write widget tests and you can actually run tests, headless tests, essentially without an actual device, which could also be very handy. But we would call those integration tests, something that's testing like a larger flow of your application.
Other aspect of this question is join your online or local communities and share your specific points of friction and learn from your peers, because that's how all of us ultimately lift up, is that we share with each other as much as we can, like what we're doing here in this show, for example. Join the Discord, join the Slack. Those are both listed at flutter.dev/community. So the very bottom of the page, you have to scroll all the way down, and it always freaks people out when they have to do that to find those links, but it's down there. It's definitely in there. That this kind of a question is better when there's a lot more interaction, and it's hard for us to do that here on this show. But if you go to the Discord, you'll have instantly people jumping out to say, well, what about this and what about that? They're really good at that. So get linked in. And also if you have a local Flutter group in-person meetings,
meetup.com.
Meetup.com. And
there's also the Flutter Flutter Meetup Network.
Yeah, that's a part of Meetup. Yeah.
let me go bring this up because the Flutter network. Here we go. This is it. I'll pop the link in the chat. And the Flutter Meetup Network. And here are all the locations around the world that you have current Flutter meetups that you can go to in person. I know there's not one in every country yet, but there's quite a few. And if you can't find one, well, then, you know, I'd be surprised, put it that way. And there's also, to be honest, all of these places are going to do online events as well. So you can join them join your nearest one or one in your time zone online.
When we had the COVID shutdown where nobody was traveling, a lot of these in-person meetups started doing virtual events. And so I've been in events all around the world on these meetup groups. So it's been quite fun to have been virtually pretty much every part of the planet. So it's a lot of fun. Cool stuff I get to do as a GDE. Okay. I already know the answer to this, but could you please clarify it would be possible to directly integrate machine learning models into Flutterflow's app online platform? Here's the answer for anything regarding Flutterflow. We're not using Flutterflow. Okay. We don't know much about it. And Flutterflow is responsible for their own support. So please go there and ask them.
I have an answer. I have an answer for this though.
Really?
I have an answer for this.
Okay.
So let me quickly get the reference link I need to post it in the chat.
Yeah.
So here we go. This is it. So GDG London is doing a no-code, low-code special for Flutterflow, where you can literally join a whole group of people. There's 8 seats left. Fill out the form, and in a few days, hopefully when was this yesterday, 6th. So yeah, this is today. So in 2 more days, it'll close up. But if you get your name down here, you could join the dev camp and learn how to use Flutterflow and call servers and do all this kind of fun stuff. So the link to that is in the chat.
Oh, cool. All right. So that we had more answer to that than I thought we would have. All right, great. Wonderful. On to the next one. How about this here? We're almost to our last question. What are the advantages of Firebase? Because we can use backend instead of Firebase. In which cases do we need Firebase? I clarified this in the chat that you might be talking about Firestore, the database part, because Firebase is pretty broad. There's like 15 different services in Firebase. I forget now the actual number.
I forget as well. Actually,
quite a few.
I can find that.
There's got to be a page, firebase.com or whatever. That'd be funny if they didn't have that.
Yeah, here, Firebase products. I guess this is the page. Let's have a look. Let's see if we can get this up. Accelerate, scale, build, Cloud Firestore, real-time database, remote config extensions, authentication, cloud functions, app check, messaging, hosting, cloud storage, and Firebase ML. And then
Firebase ML.
Other related extensions that you could put in, like to do like emails and various things. The view engage products. So that was just like the dev products. So there's a whole, so now you have engage products. So then you've got Google Analytics, A/B testing, authentication, in-app messaging, crash analytics, cloud messaging. I think it covers the 2 big categories. Oh no, you got like build. Oh, release and monitor. There's release and monitor as well. Yeah. And then what they've got in here is performance monitoring, test lab, app distribution. So there's like a lot of like little services that you can use that obviously cover things that you could maybe build yourself, or you can just use a service. It's like you could deploy your own like open source analytics platform and deal with all the stuff you have to do with that and use that. Or you can just use Google Analytics, right? So it depends on your use case. I mean, so actually, I did cover this, and actually, I do want to cover this. So I'm going to answer this question the proper way here. Hang on, with a diagram, because I have a diagram.
Oh, yay! Diagrams are great. I bet I know what diagram it is too. I've seen this diagram. I saw you making it too.
Did you? I don't remember.
Don't you remember?
No, but you obviously remember, so that's good enough.
Yeah, right. Okay, let me just describe the vision in my head that I don't have. Right, exactly. Sorry for the aphantasia joke, but okay. Yeah, this diagram. Remember this one. Because you were trying to figure out what color to make things and whether it makes it clear with the magnifying glass. No, this was we were doing this in the Zoom chat.
Yeah. So let me see if I can get this. I don't think that makes it any better. We'll just leave ourselves inside. So generally speaking, as you can see here, you have agility on the right-hand side, you have configurability on the left-hand side, and what we described here is what you have to manage as the customer of a cloud platform in red, what is managed by you and the cloud provider, and what's managed by the cloud provider. Okay, and these are the different sort of names given to the various software levels, right? So software as a service is all provided for you, right? So you've been given access to software and it does the entire stack, right? Then you have function as a service, which is the next level down, which is cloud functions, right? And AWS Lambda and things like that. And what you have to provide all yourself is the data that the cloud function runs on or whatever it needs. And out the application layer, well, they'll deal with scalability, parallelization, capacity, error handling, but you need to provide your own code and business logic to do that, right? This is the bare minimum way of making something run on the server side. But then, you get the most agility, you get the quickest way to deliver, but you don't have much configuration over this, right? You don't get much over what languages you can support or use, right? They're like, okay, you use Node.js, boom, that's it. That's all you get to do, right? Whatever the service might provide. Now, further down here on the left, you see, as we go down the chain, we got platform as a service. So that means, you supply the data and application on top of a runtime environment. That's like App Engine, for example, right? Where they give you the entire runtime environment. You provide a startup configuration, but you can provide the application and data. Then container as a service. This is kind of the go-to right now for most people. This is Docker and things like that you might have heard of. And this is where the runtime is deployed along with the application and data. Now, the runtime in this case would be Dart. So you supply, so when you run Docker and it builds an image that contains Dart, your application code that's been compiled in Dart, and any data that your app relies on. So that becomes your service that's running in the cloud. Infrastructure as a service, again, now you see that now you're running the container technology, be it like VMware or Docker or whatever, and the operating system is your responsibility. That'd be like Ubuntu or Windows or whatever, right? And then finally, on premises, this is you own all the hardware and the networking and the equipment, and it's all your responsibility. That is being a cloud provider at that point, right? So you get all the configuration you want. You can configure it so the network only does certain things and the storage only does certain things, but you don't get that capability on any other level here, right? So that kind of gives you hopefully the kind of where you go from agility to configuration. And I think for most people that are doing Flutter, it falls into function as a service and container as a service. You either run like the Dart stuff, where you build your own container and run Dart code on the server, or you're using a different language and you're using cloud functions or AWS Lambda. And that's kind of like the main two areas you've probably seen. With the left-hand side container service, you can write it in Dart. You can write all your server stuff in Dart. It gives you a lot of flexibility, and you can share code between your app and the server. Hopefully that kind of helps.
Did you find a link to that yet? Is there a link
to which?
that?
What, to that
the
chart?
Picture, the picture you just showed. No,
that's it. That's what you get. I haven't put it up online, so that's what you get.
You need to put this online so I can get to it. Anyway, I believe it. Okay, our last question actually can lead directly into maybe some live coding. Good old Frey.
What's this? Oh, we got gist.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's what I'm saying. Live coding.
I missed that. Okay. Let's let me see what I can find.
You want me to read it to you?
No. What the gist?
F362 AF06E1.
Okay. Let's we'll see what we got here.
Yeah. I'll get the
change notify listener example. A utility to wait for notify listeners to be called. I think we spoke about this before. Do you remember this, Randall? Like going from futures to listeners and back again at some point?
Yeah.
Look.
We've done something like that. I've talked about doing RiverPod, provide a listenable map,
Okay.
listenable and back, but not like this.
Okay, let me change notify listener. You specify change notify, adds a listener. Okay, increments times notified, completes a completer. And wait until notified. I mean, sure. It's a use once object, and you get to see how many times have been notified. So hang on a minute. So until notified. So I can't wait. When does completer get set?
Bottom, how to use
I know,
it.
no. I'm just like
Okay.
looking at this.
Thanks, Ray.
So okay, so this is set by something else then. So oh no, so I'm talking about here, right here. So the first until notified is set. I'm not too fond of that. Cannot call until notified while waiting for previous call to complete. I'm not sure. I mean, why? Why can't you just return the same future and have multiple things listening to? Like, I'll be honest with you. I get you. I mean, obviously, this is some logic that you needed, but I'm sure that that just doesn't make sense to me. I would say question mark equals here, so that you only set the completer once. But then why not have anyone that calls this function listen to the same future? You never set it back to null, right? So you can only ever call this function once. Let's say you call this function once and then you have to call it again, it will just crash. I don't see that. That's all the change I would say there. Sorry, this kind of ended up being a code review. Sorry, but yeah,
well, that's what he asked for. So,
oh, was it? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Do a code review of this. Is there a better way to do this?
Okay. Change notify listener extension. Okay, cool. So you can listen on change notifier. Okay. And then stream controller, whatever view model, listen. So my view model is an extension of change notify listener. Listen, and then I'm assuming. See, this creates one of the classes, listener, until notified. I mean, as a stream, you can do dot first, right, which achieves the same thing as until notified, right? And as a future, you can also just wait until it's done. I get this. I also suggest that maybe there's room to this whole sort of dispose. I think if you're going to add it in the constructor like this, then now itself unsubscribes itself. So I would probably do this as a sense that once it's been notified, it unsubscribes because it's a headless object. You don't expect to create an object and then to have to manage have to dispose it that way, especially when it comes to like streaming, converting like logic from a for example, from a change notifier, the behavior of a change notifier to a stream or vice versa here. So my view model is change notifier. This is the stuff I try to avoid as well. So right here, this is listening to this forever, for the lifetime of your application. There's no way of canceling that listener, right? Unless the event stream is closed, then this keeps going. I tell a lie there, but yeah, that's the only way that ever gets stopped. It's even worse when the stream belongs to this object and then. So anyway, so we have a counter.
Frey followed up here. I don't know if you've read that.
Change notify listener is just a tool for testing. Okay, so but I mean, sure. I'm not sure I get So an external event triggers notify listeners of a change notify. Sure. You could just, I mean, why not make the change notifier a event sync? A stream sync, right? And then on the outside, you're just saying my view model goes. The events from the stream go to my view model, right? And then the add function is add, right? I can't remember what it is on the event sync. Could then do your counter ++ notify. I mean, it works. This is all perfectly fine. I just think that I'd like to see more control over the subscription. But possibly you're handing a stream in, right? So, I mean, put it this way: if you want this view model to go away before the stream, you can't do that in this situation, right? You would have the best is this extends change notifier. Why not have a dispose method and have a stream subscription that cleans up, right? But equally, I'm not seeing like the times notified in this thing. It's not, so I see what you're saying here. You're doing that to see if it's been called. You can also get all this stuff from Mocktail. Sorry, not Mocktail. Mocktail. Mocktail will give you all this stuff for free as well.
Yeah. That's how I've seen it done in other tests and stuff. Is basically you just have a mock that records the things you want to record.
Yeah, because at the moment you're doing the .listen here on the view model, which tells me that this is not necessarily a test only thing. I mean, you could, but I just don't know why you would maybe bother unless you've got lots of these. I mean, there's not much to really speak about. I'll give you some feedback there. But yeah, I definitely still wouldn't have, even with the wait until. I definitely, if you're gonna do this, then I guess you're saying that you want it to throw because it was called twice, right? Until notified. I don't know. I think that's a reasonable thing to want to call multiple times and not have it crash. Yeah, I know. I'm just giving an example, but I'm just trying to think of like the use case here. A small example like this is hard to describe sort of structurally more. Obviously there's a point to having a change notify because you need to use the change notify interface. Yeah, I almost feel like this could be, how if it had like a stream sync or a stream transformer or something like that, then it's more like you're attaching the view model to a stream rather than having the view model listen to a particular stream, because that way you can attach this view model to multiple streams, right? There's other flexibility you get from that. I don't know. It's up to you. Looks cool.
Anyway, worth looking at. Cool. And that was it. That was the questions. We are done.
Yeah.
So if you want to do live coding based on what you just saw, or if you want to do other live coding, or you just want to quit.
I don't think we're going to do some live coding tonight. I think we need to end early for a change. I've got so much going on right now.
So the consensus so far is we're doing Pacific time. So that means we're going to be an hour later next week for those of you that are not in the US.
Yeah. What we'll do, we'll get links together for the show a bit earlier so that you can all get in your calendars. So sorry about that, but yeah, that should hopefully help. We're
still discussing behind the scenes whether it should go to UTC and then it would never shift, or whether we should go to Europe time for the shift, or whether we should stay on Google time for the shift, which is what we're doing right now.
The reason for the 9 a.m. Pacific was mainly around the fact that if we have guests on from that side of the planet, at least they're going to be on in work hours, right? Like at 9 a.m. they can join, right? Whereas if the times change, it goes to like 8 a.m. right? Because you go forward an hour, which is pretty difficult, depending, right? So
well, actually no, that means in summer it'll go to 10 a.m.
Okay.
So that wouldn't be bad to lock it in at 1700 UTC.
Well, all right. We'll work it out.
See, We're still discussing this, so we haven't. And it's stupidly me. I always bring this stuff up because I'm the time zone geek.
Indeed.
Crazy stuff. Let's please end DST now. Let's get rid of that stupid thing. Anyway. Oh, that's not. He asked a question earlier. I said it's past our question cutoff. If you want to do that, I can find it for you here. It's this. This. If you want to answer that, go.
Does machine teachable models work fine for Flutter? Like it would give me the correct results. If this is not a Flutter question for you guys, okay, so you're talking about ML, like Gemini and things, right? Like you're talking about basically what AI machine models fine for Flutter to correct you, to give you correct. No, none of them will. There you go. So this is the thing. All of them can produce code that will probably compile, but they'll be mentioning things like functions that don't exist or classes that don't exist because it's imagining the next words and the next letters and words to use. So it may be syntactically correct, but it doesn't necessarily mean it will compile. And this is what I said before. AI is authoritatively wrong, meaning that it will say things like, you must do it this way. Yet it's completely imagining that. So anything that you get from AI, you need to take with a pinch of salt, or basically saying that, you should use it as a guide and a helper, but validate the responses. Use it as a way of like a second person to help give you hints, but don't treat the result that you get from AI as fact, right? Then you won't go wrong, because if you do, you'll be looking at going, it should do it. Why doesn't this code work? And blah, 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 and trying to search and Google it. And you're just Googling a computer's imagination, right? Things that don't exist. So, does that kind of make sense? Hopefully that helps put that in perspective. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
I should
Yeah.
hit return there. Okay. Yep. Okay, cool. All right. Well, let's wrap the show up then.
Yeah.
Because
I think that
you
kind of
gotta
wraps
go
it
and I
up.
gotta go. I got stuff to do. I'm gonna go get Chinese food for lunch. That'll be fun. And
Right.
alrighty. Thanks.
We'll
See
see
you
everyone
next week.
same time next week.
About 165 or 6 hours, depending on whether
Something
we
like
decide to move forward or not. Watch the streams. The streams will tell you.
Follow us. Yeah. Subscribe to the channel and you'll get notified. There you go.
Yes. Right.
Like the video because it actually does help us.
And welcome to all the new people that were following us for this new stream. I don't know how you found out about us, but I'm so glad you're here.
And we have a Patreon. We have a Patreon to help us pay for this technology that we use.
This is a record crowd for us. Actually, we're very happy with this show.
So all right.
Nice.
Let's see you again same time next week. Bye bye.